Welcome along to the Cardiff City phone-in. By the way, it's called the Cardiff City phone-in, even though people can't phone in, because people say about that. But it's like what I call it's like a kind of legacy, like a legacy kind of brand, because once upon a time people used phones and everything, but it's been going for 20 odd years. Just thought I'd mention that. So on the show tonight we got Mark Pontin, hello again, Mark. Terry Walton is back with us in a lovely scarf, which is probably keeping you quite warm this evening. That's one. And Jeff Dela Cruz, because it's St. Paddy's Day, is going to be on in a bit. He's going to come back in. So two really kind of quite conflicting games, really, in the last couple of games. Jeff, I'll tell you about Jeff before he comes in, because it's a nice story. So Jeff's one of my oldest friends, and this is our city mad he is, Terry. Yeah. He lives near Tipperary, just on the border of Tipperary in Ireland. And this time round, what he decided, he used to be a train driver, so he decided to come across and watch Cardiff City by coming across as a foot passenger on a ferry, into Fishguard, and then using the train service all the way down. Oh, so it's a ridiculous journey.
Yeah.
And then down there met me just before the match. He stayed over at my place and afterwards, but and then when he went home, left the house some crazy time in the morning. Off he went again down to Fishguard for the return journey. So, hats off to Jeff for that. And then of course, Terry, we went to, we watched the game. Yeah, it was great to see him. Don't get me wrong. But then we went and watched City play Luton. So we'll deal with that one first, and then we're coming on to the better stuff. I'm not deliberately being negative at all. I just want to talk about the Luton game a bit first before we get into it. And to say the least, Terry, it was just one of those really disappointing evenings. It was such a massive 6-pointer of a game, wasn't it? It just didn't seem to happen for us at all. What did you kind of put it down to?
I don't know. It just seemed to me, I just don't understand when they play against sides which are basically 6-pointers in the bottom of the league, we don't turn up.
No.
We play around in midfield. We don't go forward. I watch it on TV. And I didn't actually go to the game, but I watched it on TV. And I thought we dominate in the middle of the pitch, but we're not getting into their penalty area at all. We seem to do a lot of passing the ball, but no thing. And then we score the goal. I thought, this will lift us. We'll now attack. I don't know what happened. We just seemed to give up. They came back with 2 goals, and that was the end of the game. Yeah. It was. I couldn't even pick a player on the Cardiff City side that was worth more than 2 stars.
Yeah, it was just one of those nights when it didn't seem to happen. I mean, it was fairly cold down there. The atmosphere wasn't great. Just generally a pretty drab affair. After the game, I'll go on to Mark in a second. After the game, Terry, me and Jeff were walking down the road, and this guy came up to me and he was pretending he had a microphone in his hand. He said, "Can you give me a comment on this evening's performance?" I stupidly started talking towards the hand. They realised he was just joking. But it turned out there were a couple of Luton fans.
Yeah.
And they were staying over in Cardiff, actually. And they said, what a terrible match. What an absolutely terrible match. It looked like a non-league game. The standard of the football, it was just a horrible match,
When I sat there, my wife kept disappearing from the room. She kept coming in saying, "Why are you still watching this? You haven't whimpered, let alone raved or shouted or anything. You just sat there completely mesmerised by the lack of movement anywhere." It was a diabolical game, wasn't it? Absolutely diabolical.
And the point is, as well, is because I've said this before, actually, I suppose in a way, it's kind of an inspiration to us as City fans, that Luton Town, and look how bad they are, right? Luton Town, last season, they were in the Prem. They played Premiership football,
Yeah, right.
How on earth did they do that,
I don't know. It don't make sense, because normally when you come down the first season, you've still got the parachute payments. A lot of players still stay, so you're still a lowly Premier side, but you're still a Premier side, aren't you, effectively?
Yeah. And the parachute money and all that.
Down there. They were not one of the teams I'd put to be in the bottom half fighting relegation this season.
No, and I think they will go. I think they probably will go down. Mark, Luton, fairly appalling team. What did they just bring us down to their level? It just seemed like we were passing it out of play and booting it long, and it was just drab. It just wasn't happening at all.
Well, I was at the game, and I sat in an area of the Ninian that I haven't sat in before, way up the top near the Canton end. And I was surrounded by lots of older gents who've been watching City a lot longer than I have. And it was just despair watching Cardiff's performance. It was despair. There was profanity left, right, and centre. I've been watching City for 60 plus years. This is the worst team I've ever seen. And I in the first 10 minutes, we were making so many errors.
Yeah.
We was really nervous. We seemed to be
we looked really nervous, didn't we?
But I kind of blame the manager for that. You should be fired up for a home game against opposition where you've got to win, and you should have the confidence to go in front of your home crowds and perform. And I think he didn't instill much confidence in them. I got to be honest. And I got caught in traffic on the way home from the game. Sorry, and we were heading towards Culverhouse Cross, and they closed one of the lanes.
Traffic was terrible, yeah.
And of course, I live in Llanelli, so they made us double back, and I headed through my hometown, Cowbridge, and they closed the A48 as well. So I didn't get in till like 2 a.m. or something stupid like that. So I had plenty of time to reflect with the guy I went with on what the game plan might have been for that night, and we couldn't work out what the game plan was.
No.
Luton were awful. Luton were terrible. They were there.
It was a horrible match.
So why we didn't play like we played against Burnley in the second half?
Yeah.
I don't know, and why he took Callum Robinson off, or didn't have Callum Robinson on the pitch, or I don't understand some of his team selection. I don't understand his tactics. It was a strange game. Also, it's a very poor representation of Championship football.
Yeah,
but I just thought we lacked any cohesion at all. We didn't have a game plan. We were all over the place. I thought it was awful. It was terrible.
So I thought to a certain extent they can't. I know I said they were, amazingly they were a Premiership side. They do have a couple of decent players. I mean, Doughty's reasonable. I think that their left wing back, and of course McGuinness is, a decent player. But they weren't that special. But I did think it just like the nerves kicked in, and maybe you said about we should be turning around our home, but sometimes. I don't know. There was just like a palpable tension in the air, really. And if you've got those City fans kind of behind you, you're kind of terrified to make a mistake. And I think it just was a disaster waiting to happen, really. Jeff, you with us? He's just going to sort himself out now. The Irish contingent are just making their way in.
The thing I find this season, Steve, whenever we play in sides who haven't won for a long time away or they always break the record when they play in Cardiff.
Yeah.
I mean, Newton and won since God knows when on the road.
Second away win of the season, I think.
Cardiff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what the Luton fans were kind of saying, really. And I said to them, I'm pretty sure, and I know we played poorly a few times, but certainly in recent matches, I thought we were just terrible against Luton. We couldn't have made it easier for them, really. Just like capitulated against them, really. And what's that come down to then, Terry? Is that obviously we had a great result in the weekend, which we'll come on to in a second.
Yeah.
Is that to do with character? Is that to do with nerves? Is that to do with self-belief? What's it about?
The 11 players that start all have got the same frame of mind. So something is happening in the dressing room. They're not coming out fired up to win that match, are they? And I found it strange second half, even when we made the substitutions. In other games, when we made the substitutions, the game has turned around and they played far better, like they did against Burnley. But the situation was, even when the substitutions, the tempo of the game didn't change, the skill of the game didn't change, and we didn't look any better. We started with 11 on the pitch, we made 4 changes, and we were still the same rubbish.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happened with. I mean, Callum Robinson was our sort of talisman up front. The last few games, he hasn't been clicking at all, has he?
I don't think he's fully fit. In my opinion, I think he's. I think he could do with the summer break. Because we still got a number of players, haven't we, who aren't fully fit.
Yeah.
So, Mark, with the the Omar Riza camp, yeah, there's some people who obviously keen for him to push on, keep us up, and then kick on again next season. And they talk about him being so inexperienced and criticise his substitutions. But then if you think about Errol Bullock, one point in 9 games, I think it was, and he made some crazy substitutions, and he's supposed to be the experienced one. So could you argue that Omar Riza's come into a very difficult position and done the best with what he's got and managed to accumulate massively more points than the guy who's supposed to be the big name manager?
I'm trying not to be overly negative because we did win on the weekend, but I don't think he knows his best team. I will be honest. I don't think he knows his best team. I know he has to rotate because of appearances and injuries, etc. But I don't think he's got. I think his lack of experience is showing in his team selection when we first come out on the pitch. He's always having to change it in the second half, or he's having to shuffle the tactics around because it's not working. And I know all managers do this, when they're facing an opposition that's perhaps dominating a certain area of the pitch and they have to alter a bit. But I don't understand half the time what his game plan is, what his tactics are. He seems to want to protect a draw and then cost us, quite a few times he's cost us points by doing that, by taking attacking players off and putting defenders on. I mean, we've got, I think, the second worst defence in the league. And it was Gutas that was at fault for at least one of the goals against Luton. Now, he's been at fault quite a lot for a lot of the goals. And I was glad that he didn't play on Saturday. But I just think he'll do things like he'll pick Mansverk, Robertson, and Joe Rolls, for example. To me, they're more number 8s than number 6s, and you haven't got a number 6. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem to make sense, some of his selections, and then it will pay off for him if we're lucky. Like it paid off on Saturday. His substitutions, luckily, won us the game. But I think it was luck more than anything else. I think that, he brought on Will Alves and he brought on the pace. But why not start with the pace? I don't understand. I mean, it just and Callum Robinson's in the top 5, I think, of scorers in the championship. If he's carrying.
Yes, he was joined 3rd the other week.
But I watched him from the stands warming up. He was sprinting up and down that touchline, really giving it a heavy sprint. And I was thinking, well, he can't be that unfit. You know what I mean? It's. I don't think he knows how to incorporate the two of them up front in the same team. I don't think he wants to play old-fashioned 4-4-2, and then I don't think he really.
I love 4-4-2.
Yeah, I don't think he really knows, given the players that he's got, the best way to set up to start the game. We start really slowly. Every single game, it's a really slow start. And we were better on Saturday. We were pressing a bit more on Saturday. But against Luton, it was horrific. It was dreadful. You'd think you'd change it within the first 10 minutes, it being that bad.
So let me ask you something, Mark, yeah? Let me ask you something. I think Jeff might be able to join us in a minute. I'll ask Terry the same thing. So, bearing in mind your uncle,
yeah,
Keith Ponting, okay, and the era, which Terry will relate to this. No offense, Terry, but you will, because of you've been around a bit. The era that he played in, and the kind of characters that he played with. Okay, this is a long time later. Things have changed, but there's a couple of comments have come in tonight. So I'll go to Jamie's comment, which I showed earlier, but I'll show it again. We have ability but less fight. Luton have the fight. So does it become about characters? And I wonder if I don't know whether you're in touch with anyone who played with your uncle. Maybe you are, but I wonder what those kind of people, what their thoughts on this kind of thing would be.
Well, I don't think we've got any leaders on the pitch. Put it that way. And I mean, when my uncle was playing, we had many leaders on the pitch. Phil Dwyer, they're all prominent, dictators on the pitch of they could get the camaraderie going, they could get the effort up, etc. But I don't see any of the communication's really poor. I got, the stadium, the new stadium, I found has got a habit of going really quiet.
It was quiet. Luton game.
Yeah, people breathing, sitting next to you. It's that quiet.
Yeah.
So when it goes that quiet, you should be able to hear the players shouting on the pitch.
Yeah. Well, I think that bounces off the players. I don't think it's good for the players either. You
can't hear players doing that. They're not. There's no one on the pitch that's really leading. There's no. They've got. I can't say they haven't got passion. They are trying, and I think if you view a team that plays in the image of their. I can't see what that image is. I've got to be honest. It seems to be hit and miss. It's not consistent and it's frustrating.
Yeah. Terry, do any characters spring to mind? We're going to bring Jeff in a minute, but there seems to be a bit of an issue with sound at the moment. We'll have a go. So
we
fighters, Terry.
But Emily dominant on the pitch at sort of shouting instructions. People are getting told off if they're not playing well. I also get the feel keep playing position, and we never stop on the side. We don't go out there to get 2 or 3 goal lead and then make substitutions. We have to make substitutions and try to catch up all the time. And nobody is.
Yeah. Who would you think of if you're thinking about people who were battlers? Cardiff City battlers.
Well, I go back to the days when we had players like Danny Malloy, who were there. If you on the pitch didn't well, you knew from your players you weren't doing.
Yeah, that's right. There's an issue with Jeff's mic, I think, when it comes on.
Heat going on.
It's not doing very well, is it? Keeps muting and unmuting itself.
I can hear you now, Jeff.
Yeah, you can now until the mute. It keeps unmuting itself or muting itself. Anyway, at the moment, it's still okay. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll all hear you.
Right. Okay. Carry on, lads.
I think what we hear is our echo coming through
Jeff's.
Yes, it
is.
Have you got headphones?
No, I've had to go to a tablet and no. Look, I tell you what, lads, I'll leave it for tonight. Major issue. Sorry about that.
Well, you can speak.
Yeah, leave it, lads. It's ruining the show. Anyway. Lofela Porig. Good night, lads. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers, Jeff. So it was kind of a nice Irish stuff going on there, really, wasn't it? All got a bit Patrick's Day. I was thinking when we were coming in, I really wanted to get Jeff on. It's a shame, but never mind. But Terry, thinking about characters, do you think if I turn it around on his head a bit, because on the weekend, it was a fantastic, it was a great win. It was so important.
I was expecting this to be doom and gloom tonight, and we were finished. I thought,
yeah.
I don't know if you saw my Facebook goodbye championship after the Luton game.
Oh yes.
We've got no chance whatsoever now. But to come away from Blackburn 2-1 up, that balanced the week out. That really balanced the week out. And I cannot believe I was actually shouting for Mike Day. I mean, I've always complained all season. They're bringing him on as sub. He does nothing. And in quite a few games they brought him on, and his mistake had given the game away. And then to come home and be the hero Saturday was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was quite cute because in the commentary, the 2 lads doing the Cardiff City commentary, and he came on, and he said, "Oh, wouldn't it be kind of great? Wouldn't it be great to see him get the winner?" And Alvarez puts the cross in, bang, back in the net, and they're almost like collapsing with joy, the two of them. But it was interesting when he scored that goal, Yaku Mete. It was interesting, I thought, Terry, that he kind of ran away from the fans. He didn't run to them. He ran away, and I don't not sure if at the end he celebrated with the fans. He still seems to have that resentment towards stuff, you know.
Well, again, he's taken a lot of stick, haven't he, on social media. I mean, the fans, he turned the fans completely against him this season, and I think that's really hurt him. And getting that, then he, instead of embracing them again, he was showing contempt in some respect, wasn't he?
Yeah, because that was his chance. Well, you know, he was a hero.
Yeah,
but he kind of wasn't with us as a hero. I totally get there's some absolutely inappropriate, terrible stuff said to him and about him. Yeah, which is you know is unacceptable.
I think the boy was a tryer, but he just wasn't clicking, was he? And he was because he was trying to do something. He was making silly mistakes and giving in many cases he was the cause of us losing games. They brought him on second half. He'd give a stupid foul or he'd do something silly, and they'd score from it.
Yeah, but he took the goal. You know, it was just literally it was his first touch in the back of the
brilliant cross, brilliant connection, wasn't it?
Great cross from Alves. Great cross. Yeah. And Mark, I come back to you. The comment here from Graham, which is an interesting one. I think given 3 or 4 players new contracts a few weeks ago, and no news on others being offered, you know, could then have an effect on you know the morale in the camp.
Maybe. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I still go back to motivation from a coach's sense. Really, it's not, you know, if the players have got the new contracts or on a high, and the ones who haven't had an offer on the low. I mean, the whole team performed badly, not just, you know, individual players. I mean, Gutas has apparently been offered a new contract. I don't know why, but he has been offered a new contract. And he hasn't signed it yet, you know. I just think this. I think I got to be honest. I'm over the moon that we won on Saturday. It was a great win, but I think Blackburn kind of let us win a little. They're not great at the moment. and bar a couple of players like Dolan and the guy from Arsenal, what's his name, Dennis, who are standout performers. I mean, they were pretty poor for where they are in the league. And I think that, you know, thank God they were poor, because I think it could have easily gone the other way. You know, we're not out the woods yet. Like Rizza did say, which I did agree with, was we have got 8 cup finals.
Yeah.
And I think that he's got to get more consistency. I mean, you know, we've had very, very few wins. We've had very, very few clean sheets. And this win on Saturday, hopefully, is the start of a run that will keep us in the championship. Because if we keep on doing what we're doing, which is a win and a couple of losses, and we will go down. Because Derby and Luton are starting to find some form. And I mean, Derby in particular, with Eustace taking over, I think I fancy them to stay up.
They're only a point behind us now.
I think it's between us and Stoke being the other team, or us and Oxford maybe the other team.
Yeah,
going to go down. You know, it's still worrying, but I'm not trying to be negative towards Rizza. I know a lot of people like him, but I don't think he's the man for the job. I've got to be honest. I don't think they'll stop. I think they'll keep him till his contract is up. But if he keeps us up, I don't think we should move forward with him. You know, I think.
Okay. Well, Jamie here said exactly the same thing. You know, basically, if he keeps us up, then that was his job after that move forward. There could be those, Terry, you know, because I know there's a lot of positivity amongst fans, and some, you know, for a lot of fans, the glass is always half full sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, look, he made a double substitution. One put the cross in, the other one put it in the back of the net, and we won the game. And you know, a massive game for us to win. So credit where credit's due. You know, you just didn't. He seemed objectively, I'd say, with Omar Rizza. You know, we all know he's quite inexperienced, but he doesn't seem to be able to get any credit for anything pretty well ever, really.
No, again, when you're down there in that relegation zone and you're playing inconsistent, then the fans are not happy, are they? You know, we keep getting a little lift and then we get knocked back, a little lift. And again, I think the other thing in our favour on Saturday was the least fortune was in our favour. That penalty could have gone either way. And if they'd put that in and been a draw, we'd not been as happy as we are now, would we?
Well, let's talk about
You know,
that
we had
penalty.
a bad decision in other games, and the
Yeah.
game's gone against us, and none of the fortune is shined
Yeah.
on us. But we
Well-
did have even though Blackburn didn't play that well, the bit of fortune going fell our way for a change.
Well, that was a massive moment, wasn't it? Because again, during the game and the commentary, you know, if you think about the other, I can't remember the other game. I think it might have been, was it Coventry away? We had a really dodgy penalty towards the end. I think I'm right in saying that.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of decisions have gone against us. And when you're down the bottom, these things happen. And so when it was given as a penalty, here we go again. You know,
Yeah.
and then fantastically,
drawn game again, and then
Yeah.
God even come back and
absolutely, we'd be in the bottom three. Yeah. So, but the linesperson overturned that decision, and thankfully, for once, it worked out in our favour. But for Cardiff City Football Club, and it would have been a terrible penalty to give because you could see the guy handled it before him, but the referee always didn't see it. You know,
but they have gone against us most of the season.
Yeah. And on this one occasion, we got a great decision which went in our favour, and what a massive decision it was for us. Well, I mean, I was thinking, you know, I mean, we were just about to get the equaliser mark. I thought, here we go again. You know, I was almost as ecstatic about that penalty decision as the goal, really.
It wasn't a penalty. Thank God that the linesman saw it. You know, it's because that would have been devastating. That would have been devastating.
That's the way the decision has been going. I mean, that could have quite easily gone against us and been a drawn game. Yeah, quite easily.
Yeah.
Martin Ryan makes a comment about which is a really good point as well, because Salak, I just think he's absolute quality. You know, okay, Mate proved to be quality as well because he nodded one in the back of the net. It's his best goal of the season. I think he's only got 2. That was his best one, I thought. Yeah, but Salak, I mean, you get him. You know, if you get the ball in there, he's going to be in the right place, isn't he? He's going to be in the right place, and as Martin says, you know, get the ball in there quickly and give him a chance to get on the end of it, isn't it?
But again, he's one of these poachers in the box, isn't he? When we
yes, yeah.
If the ball is bouncing loose in the box, he at least makes it go goal wise, and the keeper has to save, or he just misses. But you know, and he hit the post quite a few times this season.
Yeah,
but he could have been well up, couldn't he?
He hits the target.
He's always on target somewhere.
Yeah,
and I think that's one good find of the season.
Absolutely, yeah. And my worry with him is, you know, I mean, you got to say it's Cardiff City Foot. You got to say this, you know, if he gets like 10, 12 goals by the end of the season, you know, and someone comes in with a few million,
yeah,
you know, you can just see it happening, can you?
Well, that's Cardiff. I mean, I've been a Cardiff City fan for over 60 odd years, and every time we got a player that's going anywhere, good old days when we had Graham Moore up front. And we were going for promotion. They sell him 5 games for the end of the season.
Toshak was the famous one.
Yeah. You know, and Cardiff's always been looking for cash rather than growing for the future.
Yeah. Which is well, it's a shame because when you think about, you know, one of the things which we've always had, of course, Terry, all the way back, really, I think, is an amazing fan base. You know,
we have. I mean. My days on the old Bob Bank in Indian Park were the best time of my life. I even took as I told you before, my wife there to get engaged.
A comment for you, Mark, here from Peter Young. Hear the person next to you breathing, I could hear wine snoring. quite a good line.
I say breathing. It was Brian, to be honest.
Just wanted to say, Mark, it struck me when I saw the team news for the weekend, and Reno was back in, and obviously he'd made the change in the back forward. I would argue, Dimi Gutas is a battler. He is a fighter, but he seems to be losing a bit of pace, and I don't think he'll be here next season, right? But he seemed to me that, and Joe Rawls coming back in, it seemed to me that he picked a team. He said he was going to change things. It struck me, Mark, that he went for those players he thought would care about the club and would battle a bit. Was that kind of how you read it a bit?
Maybe. I mean, but it looks like that's backfired because he's brought 2 players back from injury too soon. And watching his post-match talk, he was on about, well, Rawls felt his calf a little bit, which he was out for a few weeks with. So, he was feeling it, and he went on for another 15 minutes. Then Rinomhota was feeling his hamstring, etc., etc. And I'm like, well, does he really know the best way to go about this? Because you could also argue, I know we won the game. I'm not taking it away from him for that, and I'm not taking it away. I will give him a huge positive for finding Yusuf Salek. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah.
But perhaps if we put Alves and Isaac Davis on, banging those balls in earlier on in the game, we were out of sight, because Blackburn were there for the taking. You know what I mean? If you had two pacey wingers going at them like that, I know it came good in the end, but was it luck, or was it his astute tactic brain? I think it was luck. So I think, yes, he had to change things from Luton. He lost Ramsey, so he needed a Cardiff City head, i.e. Joe Rawls in there, captain, coming back. But, Joe Rawls is probably out for the season now. Rinomhota is probably out for the season now. Could you say that was a naive decision as well? You can't have confidence in a coach when there's these questions hanging over every game all the time. Why is and as far as Gutas goes, he's a great old-fashioned central.
Yeah, he's a stopper, isn't he?
Yeah, everything's on his head.
Yeah,
he can't use his feet at all. God bless him. He odd passes, okay, but I mean, he was at fault for several goals in the last games. Either losing his man, or that one was that against Luton. I can't remember if he intercepted the ball and just basically passed it to the.
He committed himself, didn't he?
Yeah. I think that his City days are up. Yeah, we got a terrible defense considering the number of goals we scored. I know we got hammered 7-0 by Leeds, but still, we need to look at Will Fish is a better defender. Put it that way. Will Fish is more composed. He's more modern, and he's more technical.
He's more mobile for sure, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Terry, on Will Fish? He had a good game in the weekend, didn't he?
He had a good game. Going back to the Guptas bit, I think he's lost his mate in Siopsis, and he's gone.
Yeah.
He seemed to be a different player altogether, didn't he? When Siopsis was there, he seemed to play well, but then now I think he's going to be to talk to in the Cardiff side now. So he probably makes more mistakes than he was making then.
Well, I mean, that you have to say as a human being, our footballers are human beings, they are actually, but so Gutas and Siopis are a long way from home, and they're very matey, and obviously they converse in the same language, and they were really big friends.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you've got to rise above that stuff, but as a human being, when you're a long way home, that is going to have an impact on you.
I think back, and I think he realizes at the end of the season he's probably going back anyway. And is his heart as much in the club as it should be at the moment? But the other thing going on to the Cardiff this year, I've never seen so many long-term injuries. I mean, people
a lot of injuries, yeah.
Yeah, and they're not just out for 1 or 2 games with a pulled hamstring. They're out for months, aren't they, at a time?
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest disaster to Cardiff City, unfortunately, was signing Ramsey.
Yeah.
He brought him in. He's a tremendous player still.
What a player.
On the pitch is a totally different game. But
Yeah.
he plays 2 or 3 games. He's out for about most of the season then.
Yeah, that was devastating.
This year.
I mean, that when it happened in the Luton game, he just you could just try. You see, he tried to back flick the back of his heel. The ball missed, and immediately, he's an experienced pro. He was devastated. You could just see he was gone, couldn't you? I don't know what Matt could be out for the season.
He was back out of the world squad.
Yeah, and he was looking good, Terry. I mean, you see him on the ball, and he's a class act, isn't he?
Class act, absolutely. When he's on the pitch, you can expect anything anywhere because he can read the game. He can pass the right players. And going forward, he's tremendous. But it's just with lack of game time with him all the time, isn't it?
And I'll come to you with a comment on the screen from Steve Thomas, because Steve was one of these very positive Cardiff City fans, and I'm sure he's responding slightly to Mark's comments earlier. So I'll go to you both on this one. So, evening, gents. We bounced back really well on Saturday, and we saw how much it meant to the players at the end. Mate scoring 30 seconds after coming on could be described, Terry Walton, as a managerial masterstroke.
I go along with Mark. I don't think it was. I can't give Reza that credibility. I think it was just, if we look at the cross, that was superb in the first place. If he'd had headed that over the bar, which he's done many times this season, he'd have been a villain again. He caught it perfectly on a perfect cross, and it flew in the back of the net. And good luck to him. He was in the right place, but the cross was superb as well.
And I'll give Mark the chance to respond for the I don't know where to say defense. So I don't know what part you played it.
I just think it was luck. I think it was brilliant, but it was luck. I mean, if someone had said to me, if I'd been sitting behind Rizza and I heard them saying, "Who should we bring on now to change the game?" I wouldn't have picked Mayte. I wouldn't have even thought of picking Mayte. I would have thought I wouldn't have had an answer, but I wouldn't have picked Mayte. And I just think maybe it's because he was fasting or something. Maybe he weighed a bit lighter and he was able to jump a bit. I don't know. I just think it was. I mean, you can't take Callum O'Dowd started that move. That was a brilliant way he went round that player, and then he gave it to Alves, and that cross was superb. That
great cross.
He's going to be.
Couldn't miss that, could he? Couldn't miss it.
He's going to be absolutely a great player. I think right place, right time for me.
Yeah.
But in the big scheme of things, he played 66 games and 4 goals.
Yeah.
That's not championship material, is it? Let's be honest. It's not Cardiff City striker material. And I know he's had to play on the wing a few times, but I like his physicality. I don't like anything else really about him. He's not for me, And I think it was brilliant that he scored a goal. Fair play to him, but it wasn't Rizza's doing. I think it was just luck.
So Steve, you're not going to convince him.
And I thought, why is he bringing Mayte on? We're still drawing. We'll hang on to this. And what happened? He kept brought him on. I thought, here we go, lost again.
Well, what's worrying for me, and I again, I'm trying not to be negative, but in some of his post-match talks, Rizza's been talking about player contracts, and Rinomhota and Mayte are coming up, I think, as well, have been out of contract. And he was saying things like, well, Isaac Davis has had a new contract, and we got a few more of the boys to sort out, like Mayte and Rinomhota. Now, if he keeps this up and they decide not to use Rizza going forward, but he signed, Mayte on another 2 years and Rinomhota on another 2 years, we're basically going to be stuck with the same kind of team with no wiggle room. And I know Rinomhota's been playing better, but I've seen him a couple of times now. He's been dreadful as well. So you start to think, have we got? They gave Etete a new contract. I'm thinking, okay, they did that because they were going to be able to charge a fee for him. I think that's why they gave him a new contract. But next season, we've got, potentially a new 1-year contract for Ramsey, who is going to play 5 games if he's lucky. We've got we'll have maybe Gutas might sign a deal. Mayte we'll have a lot of the dead wood, if you know what I mean. It's I don't think it's a good philosophy.
No, and Terry, there's a comment here which is about the squad, and ultimately Mark's right. At some point you've got to make some decisions.
Yeah.
I would have thought probably the ones who haven't confirmed are staying yet probably aren't, but we'll see. But Martin Ryan makes a good comment. His general premise is that the squad is too big, so even with the injuries, I guess we've got a fair few injuries still. Selection's confusing. I'm concerned some selections are just to keep players happy. Do you think there's any mileage on that?
I do, yeah. Sometimes you look at that starting lineup and I just cannot believe it. When I see the bench and who's on the pitch to start, what's happened to Ashford? He was
when he played recently.
He was playing brilliant, but he can't get on as a sub now.
No.
And when he's been on that game in the cup against Sheffield United, he was absolutely outstanding. And why is he still sitting on the bench? And you've got players there who are in the starting 11 who are not matching up to the game. And we're not putting I always get the feeling we're not putting our stronger squad to start. He's always relying on a second half comeback. and that happens once in a while, but it don't happen all the time. You need to take lead. You need to build a score, and then you can make substitutions. Not come on chasing. We usually get a goal or two down before we start realizing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Luton was an example of that. There's a comment directly to you here. You'll like this one, Terry. Yeah. So Ian Stewart, who's a nice bloke, actually. Great to have a much needed away win on Saturday, but one of the most frustrating things is the constant change of starting lineups. By the way, great to have a chat with Terry the other day in the Miskin Arms at the next table.
Well then, Ian, yeah, we had a good afternoon. We were out yesterday afternoon for lunch, and when Ian was on the next table, and unfortunately Cardiff City can put the edge off the meal.
I was going to ask you, actually, I would ask you about the carrots, whether they're any good, because I know you like growing carrots, but a more serious question, it is actually a genuine question. So Jeff Delacruz couldn't be with us tonight, but he's convinced it, because we use a hybrid grass on the pitch, and he reckons that it's not just us, there's other clubs as well, that can have a resultant impact on the number of injuries that the players pick up. Have you got any thoughts on that at all, Terry?
I do. I mean, you take it when people play on completely artificial pitches, they are more prone than anything. Grass is the best medium of all. It's got some give. It changes all the time. And the pitches, when you've got a mixture like they have at Cardiff and that they have at the National Stadium now, this stuff is half plastic, half grass. And it doesn't got the give. It's only shallow stuff. And the ground is much harder. And I think you're going down on knees. You're pulling up much quicker. Hamstrings are going much easier. Yeah, get back to the good old-fashioned grass. Back in the days of the 60s when we were a super side, we played on grass. You had players who play 30-odd games a season without an injury. And we didn't have this worry of taking them off because they can't play for 90 minutes. Everybody played for 90 minutes.
Yep. And talking of things like that a bit, I quite enjoyed the League Cup final yesterday. I'm sure, lots of South Wales's army of non-Scouse accent Liverpool fans would have been disappointed, but nice to see another, a club winning a trophy, even no matter the money they spent after so long. And of course, I believe Mr. Schooler was involved last time around, if I'm not wrong, Mark.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, that's an interesting fact, isn't it? Who's the fact guy that's always on this show? I can't remember who was it what's his name? The guy that comes on, he's the fact
Steve?
guy. Yeah, Steve. Yeah. That's a good one for Steve. That. I mean, Jimmy Schooler was before my time. I was only a little time.
A whippersnapper.
I was about your age, Mark?
What's that?
I was about your age when he was manager.
Yeah.
Tough talking manager that got the best of the players.
Great manager though, Terry. Yeah.
Tough talking. Players played for him. Yeah, he was a real character. But no nonsense from any of those players. He was the man in charge. They played 90 minutes when they were on that pitch.
So it's a figurative question, but we're one panelist down, so we can be a bit figurative. I'll start with you, Terry, and then I'll go to Mark because Mark's got a family connection with a very well-known Cardiff City player. Somebody like Jimmy Schooler, this is totally kind of hypothetical, but somebody like Jimmy Schooler comes in to the training session, right, to the current squad at Cardiff City. Do you think he'd shake him up a bit, do you, Terry?
Absolutely. I think he had the knack of getting the best out of players, and he had a great deal of respect from the changing room. And when you got that, the players knew he was in charge. They didn't want to fall out with him. They always wanted to give their best. And I think he had a relationship with the players, but he was the boss. And you have to be that. You can have a relationship with them. You can get on with them all. But at the end of the day, you play what Jimmy Schooler wants. You put 90 minutes in. I won't take any prisoners. You're not good enough. I'll tell you to your face. And he makes the changes when necessary. And players then knew exactly what their position was in the club.
I wondered, did your uncle ever, have any comments about, any thoughts on managers like Jimmy Schooler and, those kind of old school managers?
Well, Jimmy Andrews, Richie Morgan, Len Ashurst. He didn't get on with Len Ashurst. That's why he left. But he always spoke highly of Jimmy Andrews. And, of course, he played with Richie Morgan as well. So it's kind of like a player thing. But I think this is one of the issues I think I have with Rizza is that he's a good coach, but he's not a good manager. You know, I don't see him as a domineering manager kind of presence. And I think even though the modern game is moving away from the Brian Cloughs and the Alex Fergusons a little bit, you still need a guy that you utterly and totally respect, not only for their personality but for their football knowledge.
But Jimmy Sculler was a great player as well, of course. You know.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
Jimmy Sculler was a excellent footballer as well.
But you look at the successful managers that they are good. Warnock, good man manager. You know,
he's old school, isn't he? Proper old school.
He leaves the coaching to his coaching staff, and he comes in there and he puts his arm over the shoulder, and I think it I mean, there was talk of Rizza going after the Luton game. I think if we brought him in, I would have been quite happy if last 9 games to have him. You know, I think the old style of manager is still needed today, and I don't think Rizza's that. You know, he's too. He's just a coach. You know, a bit like Steve Morrison was just a coach. You know.
So I mean, another old school manager I loved, Eddie May. You know, I mean, a man's man. You know, called a spade, didn't take any prisoners, but the players absolutely loved the man. You know.
Well, Frank Burrows was the same.
Frank Burrows is another one. Yeah.
He was a bit more of a hothead, but he you know, you could say they were either scared to make a mistake or they didn't want to make a mistake to disappoint the manager. Here, it shouldn't take more than a few minutes to sort some problem out. And when I saw them against Luton, Alex Robertson was making mistake after mistake after mistake. Now,
it wasn't his kind of game, was it, really?
Someone on the pitch should be able to calm him down. There was not that. There was no leadership.
Yeah.
Or someone on. I mean, Ramsey was on the pitch. You think in a tense situation like that, a 6-pointer at home, Robertson's missed a few passes. Ramsey would go over and say, "Just calm down. You know, you'll be all right. You know, keep your head." If he doesn't do it, you expect the manager to do it. And in the end, Robertson got substituted because he wasn't in the game. You know, and you where's that belief and that confidence coming from? You know, I mean, yes, every now and again we do well, and you know, we did well in the second half against Burnley, but I think we could have beaten Burnley. I think Burnley were there for the taking.
We played great against Burnley second half.
And we did well on Saturday, but the Blackburn were poor. You know.
But here's a question for you, Mark. Ryan, I'll go to you then. I'll go to Terry on the same one. It might be a one-word answer. I don't know. If we got beaten by Blackburn on the weekend, following on that Luton game, going into the 2-week international break, would we be making a change now?
Personally, I wouldn't have been sorry to see it happen, but it would have to be a decisive rescue kind of change with a Neil Warnock or someone coming in for the last 8 or 9 games. I don't think they will do it because they don't want to pay him off. I think he's got a contract for 8 games. But you know, if we lose against Sheffield Wednesday, I think they may be forced to make a decision there. You know, I think he's still going game by game here because the last thing that the club wants or needs is a relegation now. I mean, they're already losing millions a month. I mean, how many more millions they'll lose from lack of tickets sold, etc. next season. So I wouldn't have been sorry to hear it happen.
What do you think, Terry?
I don't think they would. I think if they'd lost on Saturday, the board would have accepted relegation was coming, and he'd have just saw at the end of the season.
Good point.
Him in the summer, and they'd have to start in Division 1 with a completely new team because they wouldn't have kept the likes of Salek on the Division 1, and you know, there's a few players would have gone then, and we'd have been down in that doldrums for a few years. It's happened before. I mean, we've hung on for the last 5 or 6 seasons though in the Championship. But we've got in a situation before. We've gone down. We spent a few years in the lower divisions, come back up, but we've never, for a long, long time, got a side that could play in the Premiership. The twice we've been promoted, we didn't do anything to make sure we stayed up, did we? We got up there. We took the money from being up in the Premiership. We finished bottom of the league every time. After 1 or 2 good results, but most of them rubbish.
Well,
come back down with a parachute.
But that's an interesting one in a couple of ways, because obviously there were a couple of, in the Premiership, and it sounds like it's sour grapes, but it's true. The smaller clubs, if you're up against one of the big brands, the decisions go their way. There were some awful decisions against us, and if a couple of them hadn't happened, we might actually have just about stayed up in one of those seasons. And the thing is, of course, if you were a Vincent Tan man, and you're a big Tan supporter, Vincent Tan, if he was here now, I don't think he's a regular viewer of the show, but he could be saying, "Look at all the millions I chucked into. Look at all the players, that crazy Malky made me sign. Look all the money I wasted there. I threw all the money in, and bringing in, what was it, director of football? What was that all about? He could be arguing that, couldn't he?
Yeah. But again, they one of the last time when the salary incident didn't help at all the club.
Not at all, no, of course not.
Yeah, he was coming over. He was going to be our saviour. He was a goal scorer.
Yeah.
And then the way the club handled that afterwards then was disgraceful. And I think that was the main reason Warnock went, was the fact that he couldn't support the board that were saying that Salah wasn't a player when they clearly was a player. And they were going into all these litigation and God knows what.
Yeah.
Still accepting that was a major accident, a major mess up, and it happened.
Yeah, and that's still got to play out, isn't it? Really, to its fruition. Great comment from Chris Hughes Jones. Comes in with some good ones, Chris. Let's hope that assistant ref correctly overturning the penalty decision is our turning point for the season. Well said. Let's hope you spot on with that. I want to talk about a couple more things as we head towards the end of the show. One of them is, I'll start it this way, right? I noticed there was a thread the other day on, I'm retired now, Terry, so I just, sit around drinking tea, learning how to grow carrots, that kind of stuff. And I was reading on social media, and they were talking about the greatest of all time, City's greatest of all time. So, Mark, City's greatest of all time, I suppose in your time following the club, I suppose.
Well, I answered that thread, and my answer was, personally, my uncle, because he was my hero,
of course, yeah.
But it'd have to be Phil Dwyer, followed by Peter Whittingham for me. I mean, I couldn't really prize them apart. They're that special to Cardiff for different reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Cardiff. I mean, obviously, the older generation are going to remember players that I didn't even see. So, but for me, my Uncle Keith, I can remember having Sunday dinners with him after the game on Saturday, and then begging him to play in the garden with me, even though he played a game on the Saturday. He would go out in the garden and we'd play football, and he'd go in goal just so he didn't get injured, that kind of stuff. So for me, it's my uncle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Terry?
Going back to my days, and when I go back to the 60s now, and the one player who always put his heart into Cardiff, always scored plenty of goals, always been a great game, was Derek Tapscott. I mean, he was my hero back in those days, and he played in a good team. And again, at the same time, he had a good solid defence, the art of which was Danny Malloy.
Yeah.
Nobody passed Danny Malloy, or if they did, they were minus a leg or two, so nobody ever had a shot on goal. But coming up the modern day, I agree with Mark on one thing. Peter Whittingham was outstanding.
Okay.
Dead ball situation, you could always guarantee 90% of the time that ball was in the net.
So I deliberately asked you the greatest of all time one to lead into this, to be honest, because it's the 5th anniversary today of that terrible day when we all found out, the terrible news about Peter Whittingham. He's been on the show. He was on the show a couple of times, and I was genuinely thinking at the time, we got to get Wits back on. And then it's just, I couldn't compute it. It was just so upsetting. You've said a few things about Wits, Terry. Would you like to add anything else? What made him such a special player in the history of this football club?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he was 100% Cardiff. He was a bluebird through and through. You knew he was going to 100%, and he was a match winner. When we needed a match winner, he was there, and his skills were phenomenal. He could break open the defence, he could lay on the ball, or he could take it on himself. He was a complete footballer in my mind. And
Mark,
I just think we were really lucky to have a player of that caliber.
Weren't we?
So much time with us. You know, I remember going to see years ago Southampton, Cardiff, and when Matt Letizia scored all the goals against us. Now I know that a lot of people will laugh.
He was great that night, though, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, but I compare Peter Whittingham. Some games
Yeah.
I've seen Whittingham and thought he's better than Letizia. You know, he had that ability to just do something that would change the game and usually win the game. I mean, it was, you know, I feel privileged to have seen him play, and you know, there's hundreds of Cardiff City players that you just forget the names. You'll never forget his name. You know, you'll never forget his name. And last year, I actually played in the Park Hotel in Barry, where he lost his life, and we had to go up those stairs. You know, and I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I had to stop for a minute and compose myself. I was thinking, my God, this is where he lost his life, or you know, where he had an accident. You know, and yeah, he was a great player, great player.
Yeah, he was also such you know, he was such a likable character as well, such a humble,
I was going to say,
likable character. He was kind of too lazy to go back and play in the Premiership again. You know, you found a club you like, you stuck around. You know, just a lovely way about him.
Didn't they? The fans worshipped him. I mean, he felt he needed at Cardiff, didn't he? And he really, the fans adored him. So he was at home.
Yeah, and you know, he could easily have played at a higher level for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, when we went back to Villa, where by the way we played really well, you know, they even remembered him there, which was nice. So yeah, so obviously, as ever, you know, thoughts with family and friends, you know, and how much we all miss him. The last thing I really wanted to talk about Wits tonight, but we're just looking briefly now for the last couple of minutes. 3 clubs are going to go down from this division at the end of the season. Who are they going to be? Who are they going to be, Mark?
Plymouth, Luton, Stoke, or Oxford.
Okay, well said. I think Oxford. They had a bit of a kind of a bounce, didn't they? And then they've kind of slipped away again. And they got to come to our place. So Terry, that's another team from the bottom 3 coming our way.
We got Stoke as well, didn't we?
We got those 2 games. You know, can we finally show some character, innit?
Well, again, you know, I don't tell anybody they're 6-pointers, for God's sake, because they'll end up being 0-pointers if that's the case. We just go out and win the thing and not that worry about it. But I think Plymouth will go down, even though they have a little patchy bit of luck at the moment. I think Stoke will go down and Oxford will go down. I don't think Luton have now turned the corner on beating Cardiff. That's the upward trend, same as Portsmouth, and the rest of them have shot up the league. And Derby are not going down. Derby are in a rich train of form now. Change the manager, everything's coming together with them. And we got to win at least 4 or 5 of these remaining 8 games to make it absolutely safe.
Yeah.
The Luton game would have given us that breathing space, wouldn't it? But yeah, we could have. But I think the same situation would have landed up. We'd have lost at Blackburn then, so nothing would have changed. I think it was just the fact we balanced the 2 games out.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, we got those 2 massive games to come at home. And just to go back to what Terry said earlier, Mark, his point about when it has mattered, when it has been like a 6-pointer, you know, we just haven't. And so that's why we're still in trouble, really. In those games, we haven't had the character, and we haven't turned up and made it count. So we're going to have to do it, aren't we? Particularly against the 2 that Terry mentioned.
We can't take our foot off the pedal for any of these games. You know, if we can get draws against some of the higher up teams and wins, you know, I mean, yeah, 4 wins, I think we'll do it. But with
it's half the matches we got left, mind.
I know. It's Luton and Derby coming up with a bit of form now. You're relying on teams above us to slip up already. You know what I mean? They mind you, there's quite a few teams that aren't playing well above us as well. So there's teams that can get dragged back into it as well.
Yeah.
So I think we'll do it by the skin of our teeth. I think we're too good to go down, and I think we'll do it. I think we're going to have to do it on our home form, though, by the looks of it. And I don't know how many home games we got left. Is it 4 games left?
4 home, 4 away.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to win
I
all the
hope,
home.
we're not depending on a win at Norwich on the last game.
Yeah, we don't want to be doing that, do we?
Yeah.
We got West Brom as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we got Sheffield.
We got some tough games, but we got some games. Well, like I'll just say one thing I said to my mate before the Luton game. You got to remember, this is a must-win game for Luton as well, and they'll see us as beatable.
Yeah,
and we were right, so we can't have that happen again, can we? In those games, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, okay, it's giving them a fortnight now to get all these injuries back.
Yeah,
up
that's
again.
right. You got 2 weeks now.
But what we've done in the past, when we've been on a bit of a run. We come into the international break and we come back worse. You know, I hope that mentality doesn't happen again. That we can get some good squads together now. Go out to play well early on, take the lead and hang on to it. Not go out there and fighting 2-0 down at half time. We got to be out there with the best team on the pitch. We got to be taking the game with a scruff early on, and then the second half, make sure with the substitutions, strengthen the squad and want to win.
And I'll leave the comment from Julie on the screen there because that says it all. Right, thanks for a great show. I'm away for the next 2 weeks, so Steve Wiggy will be around, and by the time we come back, you know, we'll be mid-table. Yeah. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
I like your face, Steve.
See ya. Bye bye. Thank you.
We're